There's nothing like watching animals graze through snow when the common mindset is you got to feed hay when it snows, because the animals can no longer feed themselves because the snow's got the grass covered up. Well, don't tell them cows that, because there's about 300 of them in there, between there and that next field up there. They're ignoring the snow. They're just pushing right through it with their nose, and they're eating the grass under it. So you can do that in the wintertime. I don't care what month it is. It's a money saver because you don't have to unroll hay. And we have found the cattle are just healthier. They're healthier grazing. They're much healthier grazing than they are up in a feedlot, or a mud or sacrifice area they call it. They're much healthier out there. They're spread out. They're eating clean forage that's been rained on, snowed on. It's had cold weather on it. It's clean. There's no parasites in there. Of course, there's no mud. The animals are clean. Looks like you took a power sprayer to them. There's no mud on them anywhere. None of them do. All the tails are nice and clean. That tells you they don't have any worms in them. You got a bunch of wormy, runny, manure tails on your animals. Sometimes that's a sign. It's usually you've got them up in a feedlot or a bare dirt area, and you got too much exposure to parasites. And now you got them loaded down with worms. And they got runny, muddy, nasty tails. Tails on these animals are clean. Boy, I mean, they are absolutely going at it. I love the sound of that rip when they rip it loose with their tongue. Yeah, the naysayers can have what they want to say about it, but this Kentucky 31 fescue, it's awful hard to beat. In the wintertime, it's got such a sod under it, it holds your animals up as long as they don't weigh over 1,200 pounds. And it stays green. It stays green all winter. It also helps insulate the clover. This morning, Joel and I moved the bull mob, and Joel's a pretty sharp young man. He pointed out on the pasture the bulls were grazing on after the snow had melted off, there was still green leaves of clover all over that field. And you wondered why the bulls were out there eating it. Well, it had green clover in it the end of January. So fescue does act as an insulator. It can insulate the clover and keep it from getting frosted. We had 25, 30 below wind chill last week, and that clover was not frosted. It was still just pea green. Well, if you can give your animals some clover in January that's green, you don't need any licks, you don't need any grain, you don't need nothing. Those cows are going up in that timber over there. We got all this grass. They're just explorers. When they start walking up through the timber like that, they're just exploring. There's not much up in there. They'll probably they may find some acorns or something up in there, but here's where your feed's at. Feed's right here. Good stuff. It tells me the cows aren't real hungry if they're going up into that timber like that. Yeah, I'm ready for the warmer weather. That negative 15 to 25 below crap, y'all can have all that. I don't want any of it. It just makes it tougher. Makes it tougher to keep your water going. Thank goodness for Russ Wilson's brass constant flow valve. Man, that thing's a trick. Whew. Never had it freeze. Never had it freeze once. That was awesome. Yep. Somebody said this morning, they were talking about a guy up in Canada. You know, he uses the all you got to have is circulation in the tank. You just need circulation in the tank and your water won't freeze. No, that's not true. That's not true at all. How's that tank being supplied? Well, we had a 50-foot garden hose laying out there on the ground. And you got a circulator in that tank stirring the water. That doesn't do flip for that hose. Hose is going to freeze solid. You got to have water flowing through that hose that feeds the tank, or all you've got is one big chunk of ice the next morning. I don't care what kind of stir you got in that tank. You got to have flow, not just circulation in the tank itself. You got to have flow going to the tank, the supply line. So, yeah, don't go out there and fill the tank, put a circulator. I didn't think it's going to stay thawed, because your supply line will be rock solid, froze hard. Look at that cat. He's reaching through, eating that fescue off that bottom piece of barbed wire right there. What are you doing? He's like, that's pretty good stuff. Look at that. I believe they're going to clean it all up along that wire right there. Look at that. Wonderful sight. I didn't have to unroll a bale of hay for him to do that either. What's the biggest cost of a cow-calf operation? What is it? You're going to get 80-90% of the people is going to say it's hay. And hay is definitely a big one. It's definitely a big one, but it's not the biggest cost. The biggest cost is a cow that doesn't breed back. That's because you bought that cow. Let's say you bought her bred in the spring. You gave $1,800, $2,000 for her, for a nice young bred cow. Bring her home, she calves, and then you don't watch your cows in the summertime. Just turn them out and use the Columbus method. You know, Columbus method. Turn them out in spring, discover them in the fall. And that cow doesn't get enough nutrition. You're not watching her close, and she gets thin on you in the summertime. She doesn't breed. She doesn't breed. She doesn't accept the bull. You can preg check her in the fall, and she's barren. She doesn't have a calf in her. What are you gonna do with that cow? You gonna take her through the winter without a calf in her gut, her belly? That's not the way to stay on the farm. It's a good way to lose your farm. So now you got an open cow. You take her back to the sale barn. She sells for $700, $800. Folks, you've lost $1,200 to $1,300 on one cow. That is your biggest cost in the beef cattle business. People don't talk about it, but I do. You've got to watch and monitor these cows for animal performance to make sure they all get bred back. If they don't breed back, you're out of the business. You're out of the business. You will go broke. So make sure they get bred back. And you can do that. You can do that really well, because that's one of the talks that we cover at our grazing school. It's coming up in May. Animal performance. You're going to hear Ian talk about animal performance and how to get it off of grass, not grain. Grain's a good way to go broke. If you're feeding a beef animal grain, you don't have a prayer making any money. Not like you do with grass. Folks, they're herbivores. They're not grainivores. They're herbivores. They do really well on grass. They do really well on grass. They don't need all that other stuff. And that's what gives cattle the unfair advantage. That's the only reason that they're not being raised in barns like the pig lot. The pig people, they came and took all the pigs. They're all in confinement now. All the pigs are in confinement. That's because pigs are not herbivores. They're omnivores. You gotta feed them grain. These guys here, you gotta give them grass. So if you put all the cattle in a big barn, there's no grass in there. So we have an unfair advantage. That's why all the cattle are not in great big enclosed barns with fans on them and all the poop and the pee and hauling all the feed to them, hauling all the manure out. It's a wreck. It's a wreck. Look at these animals. You tell me they're destroying the environment? Give me a break. Give me a break. Come watch the film. Come watch the film. We're gonna have a film. Jan's putting it on. Check it out. It's on our website. There's gonna be a little film. It's gonna be held outside of Columbia. Peter Bick, Carbon Cowboys. He did the film Carbon Cowboys. He's got another one coming out, and that's what it's gonna be. It's called Roots So Deep. Roots So Deep. It's a documentary that he shot, and you can come and watch it. It's gonna be outside of Columbia, Missouri. And go to our website. We're gonna be posting it there. You can read about it and check it out. Jan's got it on our Facebook page too. It's called Roots So Deep. It's got the date there, how to sign up, and it's gonna sell out. There's only limited seating, but it's an awesome documentary. And you know, Peter Bick was a guy. He's a professor out in Arizona. He was pretty much convinced that these things right here, the cattle, were destroying the environment. And once he found out that it's not the cow, it's the how. How are they being raised? You keep them out on the landscape. He's convinced this is the only way that you can reverse desertification. You know, land's going to bare soils because of our practices, our farming and grazing practices. Here, we're bringing plants back. That's because these beautiful, beautiful herbivores are trampling the stuff on the ground with their feet. At the same time they're eating, they're feeding the soil biology, and then they move. That's the way it happened, folks, for thousands of years. Think about it. The predators kept them all closely packed together, and any animal that got outside that large mob got eaten by a wolf or a grizzly bear. Well, or a mountain lion. We don't have those in Missouri now. I feel sorry for the people in Colorado. They're getting them. They're getting the wolves. They're reintroducing the wolves, but that's a whole different deal. I'm not going to get on that. But they're held together in tight mobs, so the animals moved. Well, when white men arrived and put up all the fence, the animals couldn't move anymore. Plus, they shot all the buffalo. But they started overgrazing all these tracts of land. They put a fence up and just put the cows in there and let them have it. Guess what happened? It got overgrazed. The plants left. It turned to bare soil. And now the American West is it's a sad shape. There's not a lot of grass left out there. But here's the animal right here that can heal it. The same animal that destroyed it, we can use to turn it back to lush grass. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to get out here. I hope to see some of y'all at our grazing school in May, and check out the documentary by Peter Bick. Jan's got it on our Facebook page. And hope to see some of y'all at the